So for all my Sony ZV-E1 users, I've got a video for you. Yes, we do have a firmware update version 2. Now this dropped, I think, about a week ago now. I'm only just reporting it now, but I do want to make this short and sharp for you guys to see what is actually in that. And I do feel like there are 4 pretty decent features that they've actually given this that's going to make it a little bit better. Some you may think that probably aren't that great, but definitely the first one we have to talk about is the monitor and control app. Now they did add that in the Sony a7 IV, and ever since then I've been using that non-stop. I actually have an old iPhone that I didn't actually obviously throw away that I've been using specifically just for that. So when I am actually filming myself doing some lens testings and stuff, I can change pretty much all my major settings in there with white balance, ISO, aperture, shutter speed, which is pretty incredible. And obviously I can hit record as well. And now you can use that monitor and control app through the ZV-E1. And also in saying that, the way I've been using it, you can pretty much replace an on-camera monitor, which is pretty incredible. But obviously if you do use it like that and you do have a spare smartphone, then that's amazing. But if you don't, you can still use your own smartphone that's in your pocket anyway. You obviously just have to make sure you turn on silent so you don't interrupt your shoot, or you're going to get a whole bunch of messages and stuff or phone calls when you're trying to use it. Now the second one I think is pretty useful is the on-screen display. So essentially if you are shooting in 16:9 sort of landscape, all your obviously main stuff is on the outside, and then when you flip it to vertical, that's when it flips itself, and you don't actually have to look sideways and trying to figure out where your settings are. It just makes things a little bit easier. And I'm assuming going forward, any brand new Sony camera is going to have that feature in there. It just makes it so much easier. The user experience is better, and it's just great that they did add it to the ZV-E1. Now the next one's pretty interesting, and I've never really heard it before. I do feel like it's a photography term, but when I actually did research into it, I was like, oh, okay, I see. And that actually happens to be the golden grid lines. And this is pretty interesting. Obviously, we all know what the rule of thirds is, right? So you cut the screen down into thirds that way and into thirds that way. And you got your points of interest, which is called the rule of thirds. And you generally stick things in that points of interest because depending on obviously how you frame your composition, this is where what looks sort of aesthetically pleasing. But the golden grid line is kind of based off, from what I've researched, kind of that little sort of swirly motion. If you do photography, you would most likely know this. Cinematographers, I assume, should know this because it's all based on, single frame anyway, except 24 single frames in a second, but there's like this sort of swirly motion, and essentially it dissects right on one of those points. And I guess, look, I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you guys can check out what this means, but it could be pretty crucial for people who actually want to frame up like that and utilize that golden grid line. And so I think it's pretty interesting, and it's just great that they're thinking about these kind of things. Now the last one, they've given us the ability to put our user LUTs in the cinematic mode, and that's pretty interesting. I did a little bit of testing and did some before and afters just to see if there still was that sharpening involved, and they haven't changed the sharpening between both styles of cinematic modes. But when you actually load your LUT in, there actually isn't any sort of sharpening, which is great. It just gives you your particular LUT look directly loaded in there, but you can also change the 4 different settings. So I'll turn it on here. You can go through your auto, your gold, ocean, or forest, and you kind of have a couple of different looks, or 4 different looks directly on top of your LUT, which is pretty interesting. And there's no sharpening done in camera as well, but it still has that cinematic 2.35:1 ratios at the top and bottom. So they're baked in black bars that when you take it into your post-production, it's a 16:9 file, but you have the baked in bars at the top and bottom. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. But one of the interesting things is that now with Cinematic Vlog, your base ISO is 100, whereas this one takes it back to 640, which is like your standard S-Log. And when you bring it into your NLE, it's pretty much already graded. You don't actually have to convert the S-Log. It's already got that look baked into it. Obviously, it depends on the strength of that LUT as well, as that you can't change in camera. This is where S-Log is great because you have more flexibility in post-production. But, it does seem pretty decent to use if you are in a pinch. And also going on to that, I do want to show you guys how to actually load the LUTs directly in here, because there's been a lot of people that buy my LUTs and they don't actually know how to load it in there correctly. And I'll show you guys. So firstly, we're going to load the LUT directly onto an SD card. So go into the Sony folder, into the Pro, then you'll find a LUT folder. Then all you need to do is drop it directly in that LUT folder. Then once you've done that, go into your Sony ZV-E1, then go into the second little pink thing all the way down to number 5, then go to Manage User LUTs. All you need to do is go over to Import, then select on one of those, and literally just import the LUT. And it's that simple. Now look, they have added some more features in here that some people may actually find pretty significant. It's pretty awesome that they've actually got a whole list of things that they've actually changed, which is obviously great, but I mentioned the ones that I found significant in this video. So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. I will put a link in the description below for that, obviously, photography site that goes into the golden rules line, grid line things. I will put a link in the description below for the firmware update, and obviously there will be links in the description below for my LUTs, my LUT packs, and my color grading course in Premiere Pro. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's get it.